Hi everyone! I'm glad to be back. Hopefully Facebook is working today because last week, as you know, all social media wasn't working. There was something very strange going on. So I came on here and it was very strange because I could only see maybe one or two people, and then I got a message from you mamas that you could only see a black screen. So hopefully today everything is fine. And the topic that I had last week, I've actually brought over to speak about today because it's one that is very interesting because I get a lot of questions about it. And the topic is dealing with toy clutter. It's how to deal with it, some smart storage solutions for toy clutter, and I've also got a couple of mindset shifts which work in reality more than the actual tactics in this case. My name is Nakita and I run the Mama Manual blog and social media pages, and I love empowering mums to learn effective time management strategies so that they can design a life that they truly love. So I want to know if you're watching live or even if you're watching the recording, I want you to leave your best toy storage tips. I'd love for you to leave your tips here so that we can all learn from each other, and if we've got enough tips to go around, I might even consider putting them up in one blog post so we can all share them. So the question for today is, do you have your toy storage figured out? Or are you struggling with it? Did you find a system that worked? Have you tried some things and maybe you haven't quite managed? I'll let you know my story. So before, and I'm talking about before I got myself organized, now this was about 10 years ago, so quite a while ago, yes. But before I got all my systems in place, my toy storage solutions weren't quite working out. And also, I was kind of thinking about toys and kids and playing the wrong way as well. So it was a twofold kind of thing. Now, the biggest problem was that it was twofold actually. One of the problems that I had was that the house that we were renting at the time as well, which was good because it gave us time to realize what we really needed. It was quite big. It was an apartment. It was on one floor, so it wasn't even on two floors. But the rooms were quite spread out and there was a really big corridor. So obviously my son, Yannick, didn't used to play alone in his room, poor thing. So he used to drag all of his toys out and they were scattered all over the corridor, in the kitchen, in the dining area, wherever we were. Which Nina still does nowadays, but we'll tackle it differently and I'll let you know how soon. So that was one of the problems that we had. The second problem was that I bought these very large storage boxes, the plastic ones. I think that a lot of mums use these from what I hear. And to me, it was the solution which made most sense at the time. So I just bought myself a big box. We put all of Yannick's toys into it. But the problem with that was that, first of all the toys were scattered. So let's say if Yannick wanted to play with his Legos, all his Legos were running around everywhere in the big box and he was frustrated because he couldn't find all the pieces to play. And besides that, you know how kids do. He just takes the box, topples it upside down, and you have all of his toys scattered in the bedroom. The kid looks at them, doesn't even know where to start, gets bored without even starting to play and walks away, and then mom is left with a huge mess to clean up. So I found that those toy storage boxes didn't work at all. Now, today what I do is I've got different toy storage solutions, and also I've got these mindset shifts which I've made, which I will discuss later on during this live. Now, if you've just joined us, because I can see that the number has grown quite a bit, the topic for today is toy storage, and we're going to be talking solutions for storage and some tactics to keep the house in reasonable order, of course. I mean, we've got kids at the end of the day and they want to play. And then some mindset strategies to help you as well to deal with the toy issue basically and just having clutter all around the house. My name is Nakita. I love empowering you moms to learn new time management strategies so that you can live a life that you truly love. So I'm going to say hello to a few mamas over here. I can see Maureen and Christina, Charlotte. Hello. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to just dive in and get started. So the first tip that I have for you is when you're choosing toys for your kids, do choose toys that are aesthetically pleasing. For example, Nina has a toy kitchen And we opted to go for a nice wooden one instead of going for the pink and plastic ones, purely because we wanted it to be in our living area. We want our daughter to play in the living area and us to play with her, you know, in the main family room, because we now have an open plan instead of an apartment with a long corridor, which works so much better for everything. And the reason we chose this is because it doesn't feel like there's loads of toys running around, because when I look at it, it's so pretty that I'm fine with it. And Nina loves having a kitchen which looks so much like mom's anyway. So if you can choose toys that are aesthetically pleasing, that's one way to, it will make you feel like you don't have all those toys running around in your kitchen, living room, dining room, wherever. The second thing you should think about, which I've just spoken about, is toy storage. Now, as I said, I would veer away from the very large boxes purely because you can put so much in them, and probably you won't be decluttering a whole lot because it's quite overwhelming to even open up and look at the box. Let alone imagine the kids when they try to play, what the feeling of overwhelm they will get. So what I would suggest is what I do. I've purchased a couple of, they're called Throwfast, I believe. They're storage boxes from IKEA. It's like a bench. And then you have different size drawers. Some of them are like this high, and then you've got the medium ones, and you've got the very small ones. And then you can store the toys according to what toys you have. For example, we use one for Barbies. So Barbies, they're very, of course, they don't take up a lot of space. So we just stack them on top of each other in the very shallow ones. And then, for example, the larger ones we use for the Lego boxes, for Nina's, like these Barbie head dolls, the ones that you kind of play around with the hair and the makeup. And they're very convenient because it's easy to just take one box or one drawer, you just slide it out and take it to whichever room of the house that you need. It's easy to clear up as well, and you can actually really keep control on the mess because you can play like around with a one drawer out, one drawer in rule, which works a treat as well. I will mention it later too. So toy storage is a big, it makes a big difference. And I think it's one of the tips that I find to be most effective. Even if you have a larger house, it works very well. Because as I mentioned, the kids can choose a drawer or two and they can just bring out that one drawer instead of carrying around lots of toys. And it's not overwhelming when they're going to put the toys back into their place as well, because there's just one box. And if they're playing with Legos, the Legos simply go back into the box. So win-win. And the third tip that I have for you, and this is something that I've been doing since both of my kids were newborn babies. I always talk to my kids. So they were newborn babies. Actually, I was pregnant, I think, and I used to rub my tummy, and not I think, I used to do it. I used to rub my tummy and speak to my kids. But when they were babies, I used to carry them around with me, and I used to say, for example, now mommy is she's clearing up the living room, and now it's time to eat, and now we're doing this and we're doing that. And I think that it helps develop the child's intelligence, so to speak, because once they grow up, imagine just springing out one day and saying, okay, now we need to clear up, and the child is 3 and you expect them to understand what clearing up is. So it's actually very fun to do it with your kids as well. You can make it even more fun because when Nina and Diana grew up a little bit and they were toddlers as well, or they were like 6 months, 7 months old, and they could interact a little bit, I used to love singing, and my singing voice is very bad, but I used to love singing the tune Clean Up, which I'm sure you all know. I'm not going to sing it because you'll all leave. But I used to make it, I used to turn it into a game, and I used to sing the clean up song with my kids while I used to do the cleaning up, the clearing up. Yes, they were too young to join in, but they used to understand that when the clearing up song is being sung by mom, and they eventually learned it and started to sing with me, it was actually time to clear up the toys. And that worked a treat as well. So speaking about making cleanup fun, you can also organize races, and you can set the kitchen timer for 1 minute and see who can clean up the most toys. Usually kids are very competitive, so this is something that really works. I also like to explain to Nina and to Yannick as well, when he was younger, why we're clearing up, because just simply stating that we need to clear up the toys most often won't work. But if you explain to the child that For example, listen, Nina, you're done now playing with your Barbies? Okay, I think we should put them back into their box because you could lose a doll, or someone could walk and they could fall over the toys and they could hurt themselves, or someone could walk all over your toys and we could break them for you. So let's put them back safely in their place so none of this happens. And usually she would be very willing to put the toys back into their place. And something which is also linked to this is that it's a very good idea to let your child learn the natural consequence of not clearing up their toys. This worked really well on Nina, because one time what happened is she was clearing up her Barbies. I think it was her Barbies. And she forgot to put one of the Barbies, or it was the skirt, yes, it was the Barbie skirt, back in its place. And somehow the skirt got misplaced, and instead of going back into its box, mistakenly someone put it back into another drawer. So come 2 days later, Nina opens up her drawer, and when she couldn't find the skirt, she was crying so bad, and I felt really bad for her, but I didn't know where the skirt was, and I thought it was a good idea to take the opportunity to teach her a lesson that toys need to go back into their place. So I explained to her, I said, listen, Nina, what happened was when you played with your toys, you didn't put it back into its place. So now, unfortunately, it's lost. So we need to look for it. So I helped her look for it, yes, but we didn't find it straight away. And then after a couple of days, I remember she was playing with some other toy and the skirt just came out of the pile of toys magically because we couldn't find it a couple of days before. And she was so happy, and she said to me, and she was only about just a little less than 3 years old. And she said, look, Mommy, I found the skirt. I know now everything should go back into its place, because if I don't put it back into its place, I'll lose it yet again. So that served a very good lesson for Nina. And if you do have the opportunity to teach your children the natural consequences of not putting their toys back into their place, I suggest you do, because it's one of the tips that will teach your kids even other life skills when it comes to natural consequences. So another quick one, I like to teach Nina, I like to tell her, listen Nina, okay, you're fed up of playing with your dolls now, so we should put them back into their place before another set of toys comes out. Sometimes she's grumpy, she doesn't always do it, of course she's a child, she's 4 years old, she has her moments, I can understand that, but let's say that 7 times out of 10, which is pretty good, she will happily put the toys back before getting another drawer. Now sometimes she says she's tired and she doesn't feel like, and so I put on some music and we play together and we clear up together, so she doesn't always do it on her own, but as she gets older she's getting better at it. So I'm just going to check who's watching and say hello. Hi Donna, hi Anne-Marie, hello Nadine, hi Audrey, Cherise, Maria and Stacy. And Maureen says, my tip, throw everything out. I have a similar one, not quite as drastic though. Joking apart, regular culling and toy rotation, yes, it's in my list actually. So Christina and Charlotte, okay, let's go on. Now, since there are more people, oh my God, tongue twister again, okay. Since there are more of you now, I have to say that at the beginning of the live, I asked all of you to share your best toy storage solutions or tricks or hacks. If you're watching live or even if you're watching the recording, let's just leave some tips so that we can all learn from each other. So leave them down here in the comments box if you do have some to share. So some more tips from my end. I like to organize a few tidying stops along the way. So Nina's playing happily and I'm playing with her, or she's engaging in some solo play whilst I'm in the kitchen next to her and I'm maybe preparing some foods or clearing up the rest of the house. And I see that it's getting a bit out of hand and, you know, toys are just increasing because, of course, being a kid that she is, it doesn't always work, you know, like clockwork. But as soon that I see that it's kind of getting out of hand, I just try and organize these little tidying stops, you know, and say, Nina, I think we need to clear up now, shall we? And of course I give her a hand, especially if there's quite a bit, because if you just leave like all of the stuff for the end, it's bound to be very tiring and overwhelming for both of you. So I try to stop here and there and just refresh the area, if you like. Toy rotation, as Maureen mentioned, I don't do it as much Because Nina doesn't have that many toys, to be honest. She does have toys, but when I compare the amount of toys that she has to other kids that I know, I think it's more kind of under control. We don't really buy her a lot of toys, and when it's her birthday or when it's Christmas time, we prefer to kind of splurge on something which is larger and that she'll use more often, rather than buying lots of little bits and pieces, like even along the way. So for example, we bought her the toy kitchen one time, and then we bought her the Barbie caravan, and another time we bought her scooter. So that of course helps with not having as many little bits and pieces running around. But toy rotation is quite handy if your kids have quite a bit, or if they tend to get overwhelmed if they have a lot of toys out in their play area. So one very good tip, not just for clearing toys, but for anything else in life, is to be an example to your kids. Now, if you're forever telling your kids to clear up, and you don't really do that for your personal belongings or for the rest of the house, it's going to be hard for the kids to follow through. Fine, they can understand that they should clear up, but can you imagine a little kid hearing his mom telling him or her, you need to clear up your toys, when the rest of the house is a complete mess? Now, of course, my house isn't perfect. It looks perfect at the end of the day when I get it in order. But no, I mean, I do have clutter running around, of course, but I try to manage to make it look decent at the end of the day. And when I have some time, I just quickly try and put everything back in its place. So I'm not suggesting in any way that your house should be picture perfect all day, otherwise your kids won't learn how to clear up. No. But what I am suggesting is that you should show your kids that you're making an effort to keep the house clear. And once they understand that, they will be more willing to do it for themselves. I also like to explain to Nina and Yannick why we're not just clearing, but why we're decluttering. And I use certain events as perfect examples or excuses, I might say, for the kids to clear up. For example, before Christmas time or before birthdays, I'm very clear with Nina. I say, Nina, Christmas time is coming, you'll get some gifts, and Santa will get you some gifts as well, but you have X amount of storage in your room and it's all full. So I think we should go through it and we should see what you're using, what you're not using, if anything maybe which is broken, which we should just toss out, and maybe we'll just donate some toys and things that Nina isn't using anymore, so we'll make space for the new toys that Nina will be gifted. And she's quite good with this, so she's quite excited usually to open up her drawers and just get rid of the stuff that doesn't excite her anymore. Maybe she's grown old, a little old for some kind of toys, and it's a good reminder as well to just go through everything. So we do this at least before Christmas time and before the kids' birthdays. The black bag method, another surefire tongue twister here. Any of you use the black bag method? I recommend this in my book, and I've also mentioned it during my live when we did wardrobe organization. So if you've got the book, the tip is here. And just to mention it very briefly, anything which you're unsure about giving away, you don't know if you need the item, if you like it, if you want to hold on to it, should go into a black bag. And this also works with kids. Why? So let me just mention a recent scenario. Nina had a toy piano. So she didn't really use it, but she liked the idea of having a toy piano. So when we were decluttering right before Christmas time, I asked Nina, I said, Nina, do you need this piano? We don't use it anymore. And Nina said, yes, I need it. I said, but when did you use it last? And she couldn't remember. She's like, Mom, but I want it. I like the piano. So I said, Nina, aren't you sure if you want to keep it? And she just nodded. I said, listen, here's what we'll do. Let's put it into this black bag. Of course, the kids need to be a little bit older to understand this concept. And let's leave it there for a couple of weeks. And if you don't remember that you have a piano, that means that you don't really need it anymore. But if you do need it, and if you do want it, at any point in time, I will just take it out of the bag and I will give it to you. And she was very happy to do that, and we did it. And the piano was never mentioned anymore, so eventually we donated it. And this method works well as well if you want to use it for personal belongings and for clothes. So if anyone has used it, just leave a comment over here. I'd love to know. Now, just a couple of mindset shifts. As moms and kids, we need to accept that the house will be messy most of the time. Yes, we'll have toys running around. Let's embrace them. Let's embrace the fact that we've got active kids who love playing. Let's enjoy this time, because once the kids grow up, it's actually quite sad, to think like that we were getting stressed out about having little bits and pieces running around. Because when they start to grow up, and I can say this from experience because my son is 13 and he's not that old, no. But there's no little toys running around. He's not clinging to my legs any longer. He's out with his friends during the day, during summertime and at summer school. So I do miss him. And I do miss those bittersweet moments of me tripping up in toys, even though it used to stress me out at the time. So let's accept that kids will be kids. And toys are toys at the end of the day. And yes, we're going to have toys running around. It's just a part of childhood. And the second mindset shift that really helped me was that, because I've changed a lot since Yannick was young and now Nina, the young girl, was that kids don't need as much to be happy. So whereas with Yannick, we used to buy lots of little bits and pieces of toys and hold on to all the clutter, and some friends used to give us all these McDonald's toys and bags which we used to hold on to because Yannick used to like playing with them, or so I used to think. Now I've accepted that kids do not need as much to be happy. So I pretty much know what Nina likes to play with. She loves imaginative play. She likes playing with her dolls and imagining that they're at school or they're going to the beach or they're going on holiday. And she likes playing and drawing, and she loves just being hands-on with me. So we've just chosen to buy and hold on to the toys that make Nina happy, and there are not that many in actual fact. So if you manage to hold on to some of these tips and keep them handy, and you remember that kids will be kids, and at the end of the day, I think that you'll feel much better about toy clutter, and with maybe some improved toy storage solutions, I'm sure that you will be in a much better place in a couple of days if you manage to take some of these tips and make them yours. So, whilst we're on the topic of clearing and decluttering, I don't know how many of you have downloaded my one-pager PDF, which is all about cracking the declutter code once and for all. Now, this foolproof formula works in any room of the house and is just made up of 6 simple steps. It's a no-fuss, big impact PDF formula, and if you haven't downloaded it, you need to download it now because you need this in your life, mamas. So if you want my free declutter formula, you need to go to www.themamamanual.com/declutter formula. I'll repeat that for you just in case you didn't get it. You need to go to www.themamamanual.com/declutter formula. Now, before I go, I wanted to make this live more interactive because I was planning to take you around the house and show you what the house looks like right now, because I want to show you the real aspect of being a mom. I like sharing these on my Instagram stories, and my house is a mess right now. So I've got Nina's toy kitchen. There's a lot of toy clutter on top of it. You might have seen my latest Instagram story with Nina jumping off her little table. And yes, there's a mess in the background, but I don't mind. I leave it there because I don't want to kind of pass on the wrong message that life is perfect with kids, because it's not. And also, I've got little dolls standing on bar stools or sitting on bar stools. They've been very good today. So Nina has gifted them a book of mamas, and they've each got one of my books sitting on their laps. And then you should see my daughter's room. There's toy clutter running around, and it's, yes, a little bit messy. But Nina had club today until 2 p.m. And when I picked her up, I had my priorities basically were just playing with her and spending quality time with her, and I knew I had my live, and Nina was going off to the beach with her daddy. So I thought I'd deal with the clutter later. So the thing is, I wanted to share this with you all on live, but it wasn't going to work out because I would need to move from one room to the other and the Wi-Fi might not work, and with the mobile phone in my hand. So what I'll do is, if you jump onto Instagram, I will share shots, real life shots of what my house looks like right now. So you can understand what toy clutter looks like for me. And I'll also share a couple of photos at the end of the day so you can see what we've managed to sort it out like and how good it looks. It will look decent at the end of the day. It's not going to look perfect at the end of our day. So hop onto Instagram. If you're not following me, I am www.instagram.com/the_mama_manual. So that's www.instagram.com/the_mama_manual. It was a pleasure to be here today. Thankfully, everything worked out well. No bugs on Facebook this time. Take care, have a wonderful afternoon, and I'll catch you here next week at the same time for my Facebook Live. Much love, mamas. Bye-bye.